The story unfolding in Washington and Arlington tonight is one that strikes at the heart of how the United States manages its most sensitive military operations. It is a story about technology, secrecy, and the risks that emerge when the wrong digital tool crosses into the classified world of modern warfare. According to a newly released report by the Pentagon's independent Inspector General, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth used the encrypted messaging app Signal to discuss classified operational timelines for American strikes in Yemen. And while Signal is widely praised for its privacy protections, it is not an approved platform for transmitting Department of Defense information, particularly not about the number and timing of manned aircraft flying into hostile territory. Tonight, fresh scrutiny is mounting around the Secretary, already under pressure from controversies earlier in the year. Officials say the leak, whether intentional or not, posed a meaningful danger to U.S. forces. The Inspector General's office states that the Secretary sent non-public Department of Defense information identifying the number and timing of U.S. manned aircraft strikes over hostile territory through an unapproved and unsecured network, a move that exposed both the troops involved and the operations they were conducting. In the Pentagon's marble and steel corridors, every communication system has a role, each calibrated to handle specific levels of sensitivity. But when personal cell phones become conduits for official wartime information, those systems break down. The report adds that the use of a personal cell phone to perform official duties and send non-public Department of Defense information via Signal implies the potential risk of compromising sensitive Department of Defense information, which could cause harm to Department of Defense personnel and mission objectives. This conclusion lands at a particularly delicate moment for Hegseth. The Trump administration has rebranded the post as Secretary of War, a symbolic shift that reflects a more aggressive defense posture and a more centralized chain of command. But with that elevated stature comes heightened scrutiny. Just days earlier, Hegseth faced criticism over his involvement in U.S. strikes against vessels Washington says were tied to drug trafficking networks in the Caribbean. That operation and its controversial outcome, including the deaths of 11 suspected traffickers during a double strike on September 2, has already triggered calls on Capitol Hill for a review of the administration's rules of engagement and communication practices. In fact, the Signal revelations were not entirely new. Earlier this year, a journalist from The Atlantic was mistakenly added to a Signal group chat involving senior U.S. officials. That accidental inclusion exposed messages in which Hegseth reportedly disclosed the timing of certain attacks hours before they occurred, along with details about weapon systems being deployed. Even within encrypted platforms, the digital footprint remains. And when the recipient list widens intentionally or by error, the consequences can escalate quickly. Still, Hegseth insists he did not compromise operational security. In a sharp exchange with reporters, captured during one of his recent appearances, he defended his actions with visible frustration. "I did not personally see survivors, but I stand because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire, smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you and the press don't understand." His remark underscores the gap between what commanders experience in real time and what the public perceives afterward. But tonight, the fog of war has extended beyond the battlefield and into his own office. Here in Arlington, the Pentagon's south entrance basks in the late afternoon light, the stone walls, the American flag waving briskly in the wind, the seals of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Department of Defense adorning the building's facade. The visuals stand in contrast to the turbulence inside. Panoramas of the Pentagon courtyard show the calm procession of military personnel walking along tree-lined alleys or passing historical exhibits about Vietnam, scenes that illustrate an institution steeped in discipline, tradition, and protocol. Yet the Inspector General's findings point to a rare breach in that system, one originating from its highest civilian leader. Hegseth, meanwhile, maintains that the investigation actually clears him. His spokesman said on X that the findings constitute a total exoneration, insisting that no compromising data leaked and that the Secretary acted within the bounds of his authority. But the report's language tells a more complicated story, one where exoneration and concern coexist uncomfortably. Months earlier, during a public address at the Pentagon, Hegseth outlined the administration's view of the threats confronting the United States. His tone was firm and assertive as he warned that the country faces intertwined challenges, not only from criminal enterprises, but from geopolitical rivals. We're making progress on things like trafficking and migration, violent criminal enterprises, folks that are threatening and brutalizing our communities, he said. We also recognize with very clear eyes the threat that China poses to our countries, to our people, and to peace in the region. Beijing is investing and operating in the region for unfair economic gain. And together, in order to prevent conflict, we need to robustly deter China's potential threats in the hemisphere. So we look forward to being partners with you in that regard. That statement reflected Washington's new messaging, an America engaged in simultaneous domains, counter-trafficking, migration enforcement, force projection, and strategic deterrence. But the central contradiction emerges here. The same official calling for greater vigilance over external threats is now facing accusations of internal communication lapses that could have jeopardized his own forces. Back in Washington, journalists again pressed Hegseth about the accusations tied to the Caribbean maritime strikes. His response was almost identical to his earlier remarks, repeating the same frustration he had voiced before. I did not personally see survivors, but I stand because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire, smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you and the press don't understand. The repetition of the phrase fog of war is striking. It hints at a worldview where uncertainty is inherent, where events unfold rapidly, and where information, whether captured through sensors, relayed digitally, or transmitted through apps, shifts in real time. But the Inspector General's office is focused on something different. Not the chaos of combat, but the rules governing how sensitive information must be handled outside the battlefield. For years, defense officials have been warned about using personal devices for classified or sensitive communication. The risk is less about Signal itself, which uses end-to-end encryption, and more about the broader vulnerabilities of placing official military data on a device not managed by government cybersecurity teams. Lost phones, compromised backups, metadata leaks, or unauthorized screenshots could expose more than the messages themselves. They could reveal operational tempo, targeting patterns, or coordination cycles, all of which are invaluable to hostile actors. It was the accidental addition of a journalist earlier this year that demonstrated how quickly those vulnerabilities can surface. When Hegseth and other officials revealed operational timeframes in the group chat, they likely assumed the conversation was insulated. Instead, it became the trigger for an internal inquiry, one that is now expanded into public debate. That misstep cost then Homeland Security Advisor Mike Waltz his job in May. And now, it is Hegseth fending off the aftershocks. At the Pentagon courtyard, soldiers walk beneath rows of trees, their uniforms blending into the familiar rhythms of daily military life. Inside the hallways, the sounds of footsteps echo against white-tiled floors as personnel pass displays documenting decades of conflict. These images, mundane but symbolic, underscore the structured discipline expected here. Every line, every seal, every insignia speaks to a system built on hierarchy and procedure. When a secretary deviates from those protocols, even unintentionally, it reverberates far beyond his own device. Hegseth's defenders argue that high-level officials face immense pressure and must often make rapid decisions, coordinating across agencies and theatres of operation. They say the use of Signal was not malicious, but was instead an attempt to ensure swift communication with trusted advisors. But critics counter that operational speed cannot come at the expense of operational security. In their view, the secretary set a dangerous precedent, one that younger officers might interpret as permission to bypass secure channels in sensitive moments. The broader geopolitical environment further complicates the debate. US forces continue conducting aerial operations in Yemen, part of an ongoing effort to disrupt militant networks capable of striking American assets or destabilizing regional partners. These missions require absolute secrecy until completed. Enemy groups frequently track flight patterns, monitor social media, and exploit digital crumbs to anticipate US actions. Every piece of leaked information, no matter how small, can shift battlefield advantage. Meanwhile, the administration's expanding footprint in the Caribbean, where US crews have conducted heightened interdiction missions, has already drawn controversy. The September 2 incident, in which a suspected drug trafficking vessel was struck twice, killing 11 people, remains a focal point for critics who argue that intelligence review and communication oversight have deteriorated. For them, the signal revelations are not an isolated event, but part of a wider pattern demanding urgent correction. Yet even amid the pressure, Hegseth continues projecting confidence. His speeches about regional threats, especially regarding China, have been forceful and unambiguous. He has signaled that the United States sees Beijing's influence operations, trade leverage, and military expansion as challenges requiring unified resistance across the hemisphere. In several recent addresses, he emphasized the need for stronger defense partnerships, coordinated deterrence strategies, and sustained pressure against malign actors. Those themes reappear again and again: trafficking, migration, criminal networks, China. What makes the current controversy notable is the contrast between that strategic clarity and the operational oversight questions now hovering over his office. The administration advocates hardening cyber defenses, tightening intelligence sharing protocols, and preparing for near-peer adversaries. Yet internally, the Inspector General's findings suggest lapses in adhering to the very communication standards designed to protect US personnel. Throughout the Pentagon complex, the camera pans across the seals of America's military branches: the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, alongside the Department of Defense emblem. These symbols frame the narrative visually, reminding viewers that the institution itself is larger than any one official. A slow sweep across the Pentagon courtyard captures the stillness of a place that has witnessed both triumphs and crises, wars won and wars mismanaged. The juxtaposition between that institutional permanence and today's political turbulence is unmistakable. Back in his May remarks, Hegseth repeated with conviction that China's rising activity in the Western Hemisphere must be met with unity and deterrence. His lines echo again: Beijing is investing and operating in the region for unfair economic gain. And together, in order to prevent conflict, we need to robustly deter China's potential threats in the hemisphere. The message resonated across allied capitals and defense circles. But tonight, analysts say his words are overshadowed by concerns about how he communicates internally. As the Inspector General's report circulates through Washington, lawmakers are preparing to demand further clarification. Some are calling for a review of the administration's internal communication protocols. Others want an audit of how often personal devices have been used for operational coordination, and national security experts are warning that the handling of this incident will set the tone for future oversight. Yet for many in uniform, the core issue remains simple. When troops fly into danger, their safety must never hinge on the digital habits of a civilian leader. The risk may have been hypothetical, but the principle is not. As night falls over Arlington, the Pentagon stands illuminated against the sky, silent, imposing, resolute. Inside, the machinery of American defense continues turning, even as questions ripple outward about the lapse affecting its top official. Whether the Secretary's actions represent a momentary misjudgment or a deeper procedural flaw is now a matter for investigators, lawmakers, and the administration itself. But one reality is unavoidable. In an era where wars are shaped not only by weapons but by data, even a single message sent through the wrong device can alter the balance between safety and peril. And as the United States navigates a world of rising threats, from Yemen to the Caribbean to the strategic contest with China, the margin for communication error grows thinner with each passing day. For now, Secretary Pete Hegseth continues to deny wrongdoing. His allies claim vindication. His critics see negligence. And the Pentagon, an institution accustomed to absorbing political storms, braces for yet another chapter in a long season of scrutiny.